So this year, it's kind of, I wanted to follow on a little bit from Apiwe's talk yesterday. So Apiwe is very much on the production of beer, and I'm very much on the consumption of beer, which I've already been doing this morning. So, you know, if things go a little awry, that would be why. But just there are lots of things, pretty much everything I do in beer is post-fermentation. Whether it's, you know, judging and yeah, it's all on the appreciation side. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of an insight into that side of things. Because of that, there will be beer available in this talk. It is arriving right now. The beer that we are tasting, so the talk's going to be about the African Beer Cup. And the beer that we're tasting is Soul Barrel's Wild African Soul, which was the winner this year of our African Celebration Award. So the African Celebration Award is for a beer that uses traditional African brewing ingredients in the beer. And this was actually the highest scoring beer in the competition this year. It didn't win the overall prize. I'll explain that later. But it did win the African Celebration Award. It's really going to wake up your palates. Troy wanted to do a calibration type beer, but I'm like, you guys aren't judging, just sitting drinking, so you don't really need that. But just before you start tasting, just to give you a little bit of a prep, so don't like take a big slug of it like it's going to be a castle or something. It is a sour beer. It's got quite a tartness. It's a great starting off beer, I think. And it's actually a blend. I really should have messaged Nick and got more information because now I'm just like winging this. Ooh, it's highly effervescent as well, I'm seeing. It's really going to wake you guys up. So Nick actually works with Tolokazi, which is Apiwe's beer brand. And this is, I think it's the third year that they've done it. It started off as a Heritage Day collab. And it's a blend of Nick's farmhouse ale, and then a traditional umkomboti, which they then blend together in the barrel. It varies a little bit every year. Soul Barrel is very much about wild ferment, about creativity, about doing something different all the time. So his beers often are a little like wines in that each year is a different vintage. It's not going to be the same from one year to the next, and that's perfectly fine. As an aside, while I think about it, while we're talking about Soul Barrel are currently looking for an assistant brewer. They're taking over another premises, also in the Winelands. So if you are Cape-based or interested in moving to the Western Cape and looking for an into the beer industry, I've got a whole job description thing, but come find me later. Nick has asked me to put this information out there. Okay, cool, let's get started. Am I pressing this or this or this? This. Okay, so the African Beer Cup.
Can you just check that everyone got it?
Does everybody have beer? I'm sure they'll shout if they don't. We'll soon find out about it. We'll talk about the beer maybe briefly later if we have time. It's really just for enjoyment, and you know, it's a beer and seminar pairing. So this beer pairs well with listening to me talking about the African Beer Cup. The inspiration for the African Beer Cup was that so I started the competition with my husband, and we didn't feel like competitions were taking beer seriously, and we didn't feel like the judges were really taking the competition seriously. So I know that maybe sounds like beer. It's a beer competition. How serious should it be? But people pay money to enter a competition, you know, and you shouldn't it's not just drinking. It's actually, and we had this, I talked about this last year, I think, but it's actually, and as Troy said when he was talking about the Great American Beer Festival, it's quite intense beer judging. You know, it's not sitting like everyone's like, oh, you're getting paid. Also, you don't really get paid, but it's actually it's work. You know, it's unpaid work, and I think because of that, people kind of rock up and they're hungover, and I mean, I've been guilty of this myself. I had one judge once rock up, he was hungover and rocked up with a pizza, which he brought into the judging room. I'm like, dude, no. Because now, of course, I'm getting notes of cheese and oregano, you know, everybody, like, oh, you could so stuff like this, and people weren't taking it seriously. And the competitions weren't really taking beer seriously. So it was inspired by international competitions. I judged in the World Beer Cup, and we kind of tried to bring that in some way to South Africa. We were the only continent that didn't have a major international competition. There was at the time no competition that was accepting beers from across the continent. There was a competition that's just for South Africa, but you know, stuff was starting to happen elsewhere in the continent. So we sort of played with ideas, and then we partnered with an existing competition that was attached to what used to be the Craft Brewers Powwow, and it's now called BeerX Africa. And they had a really small competition, so we kind of said, here, we'll take this and we'll build it up. The first year, we wanted to get to 100 entries because it seemed like a good number, and we were like, if we can just get beers from 2 countries, that'd be great, because now it's an international competition and it's not just a South African competition. The things that sort of differentiate it, we do double judging. Every beer is judged twice in the competition. We are the only major competition in the world that does this. When you get to the level, which we will never do anyway, but of like the big American competitions, it would be impossible because you've got 10,000 entries now, you're judging them, you know, you basically got 20,000 entries. It would never happen. But for us, we can do it. There's a lot of room for error. There's no perfect way to, we've been talking about how wine is judged compared to beer. It's a very different process, and there's no perfect way to do it. Beer judging is supposed to be, it's not about whether you like it, it's about whether it's a good example of what it's meant to be, but your personal opinion often it gets in the way. You might have a very strong character at the table who persuades you, whatever. So by double judging, we're just trying to eliminate any kind of, you know, human error. I work very hard to pair, so it's not just BJCP judges. There's a lot of brewers and other beer experts in this country who are not BJCP qualified, and that doesn't mean that they can't judge. In some ways, they're better judges, you know, more experience, got better brewing knowledge. So try and pair them up. So you've got a BJCP judge, because we do judge to the BJCP guidelines, so you need people who kind of understand the process. But then someone who's an experienced brewer, or someone who's a beer writer, or a beer sommelier, something like that. We have very strict cut-offs for the scores, for the medals, I mean. So it's not just about, there's different competitions, and some of them are called medal factories. I was in Germany now, and people were talking about a competition. It's an international competition, and one of the guys said, oh, I actually heard that once someone entered that competition and didn't win a medal, because it's one of those that just everybody, you know, it's you get a medal, you get a medal. We're not like that. So in each category, there's a gold, so it's called Olympic style judging. There's a gold, silver, and a bronze. But if they don't reach those cutoff points, which this year at least was 30 for a bronze, 35 for a gold, for a silver, 40 for a gold. So if there's no 40 and above, there's no gold in that category. It's not terribly popular with brewers, but it means that if you win a medal in the African Beer Cup, it actually does mean something. You know, it's becoming, hopefully, prestigious. One of the things which I love about the competition, and which is illustrated here, it's a bit silly in a way because we're called the African Beer Cup and there is no cup. But every year we commission a painting from a local artist. So the top right was the first painting we did. That was the 2019 winner. So basically the painting is done. It's kind of like an artist impression of the award certificate. Because we're like, cup is great, but how many breweries have you ever been to that have a mantelpiece to put a cup on? None. So we're like, well, they all have walls. So you will see these, they're all up on the, okay, Drift is no longer operating, the top right. The second year is the top left. That was won by Afro-Caribbean. It was done by like a street artist from Tembisa. And then bottom right was last year. That was Soul Barrel won that. And that was done by an artist based in Cape Town. Bottom left was an artist based in the Eastern Cape. And she uses like reclaimed materials. And I hadn't seen the painting. And it's a big worry, this part of it, because you're like, I don't really know what it's going to look like. We had a whole mission trying to get this painting because she lives somewhere where there's no couriers. And they can only finish the painting 2 days before the awards because we don't know who the winner is. So I love putting extra stress on myself. It's magnificent. I'm very good at it. And this one, when she sent it through, it gave me goosebumps this year. I just loved it. I don't know if you can really see on there, but it's got vinyl record on the bottom. And it was beautiful. She sent through a photograph, and I was so busy with the competition, I didn't reply. And then she was like sweating, like, oh God, she hates it. And I love it. I think it's spectacular. And that's at Richmond Hill in Port Elizabeth. They won this year. So these are things that kind of make us, I think, hopefully, make us a little bit different. I try and give strong marketing support as well. Entering a beer competition is it's part of the marketing budget of a brewery. Most small breweries do not have marketing budgets. So convincing them to part with the cash to enter, you've got to offer them something in return. So yes, we will. Am I supposed to be in front of this microphone? Okay, because every so often I can hear myself in a weird way. Yeah, just to help them push their wins, which is kind of the point of the whole thing. So we wanted 100 entries from 2 countries. We got 143 from 11 countries. And it was like, yes, this thing is it's international now. It worked. We were pretty shocked. Year 1 was, so what we used to do, we don't have enough judges, right? Because we can't sort of drag it out over a week. You can't keep expecting people to take days off work. Well, you can expect the people, but the bosses are not dead keen on you taking off work to go and judge in a beer competition. So we used to judge in Cape Town and in Joburg. So we'd judge everything in Cape Town over 3 days. And then we would pack up all the beers, so the same beers basically, and ship it to Joburg. Again, massively stressful, worried about stuff not arriving in pieces. Because Joburg has a lot more BJCP judges than Cape Town, but the competition's based in Cape Town because that's where I live. So yeah, the picture at the bottom, I think, is a photo of us getting ready to pack everything up, and it was an absolute mission. So yeah, the first year we had 143 entries from 11 countries around Africa. The competition is open to any brewery, large, small, as long as they're not to home brewers. They're to a commercial brewery anywhere in Africa, on the continent and the islands. But we don't accept entries from other continents. It's our competition. They got their own competitions. The year 1 learnings, the first one was like, shit, this thing might actually work. Maybe this wasn't a terrible idea. We need to widen the judging pool. We need more judges, was a big thing. And also, as you can see from here, we needed a photographer. We didn't kind of think this. On the awards night, we were something like, oh shit, wouldn't it be a good idea to have photographs of people collecting their awards? So someone whipped their iPhone out and the lighting was terrible. And we were like, okay, yes, this is important. So we were all ready, set to go for year 2. Which was a big pile of crap because it was 2020. So we started the competition, people started entering, people started paying for their entries, and then we returned all their money. And they didn't send their beers. So we had 0 entries from 0 countries with 0 judges. And we just sat and cried into our... It was too risky. The restrictions kept coming up and down, but now we could be sitting with everybody's money and all these entries, and now they ban alcohol and you can't ship it, so we just drank instead. So year 2, take 2. We went up to 210 entries, only 1 more country, but it's still growth is growth. And we had 42 judges from 4 countries. 3 of which were African countries, and then we actually had an international judge, which was just completely random. Someone contacted me via Facebook and said, can I come judge in your competition? I was like, well, sure, but I can't offer you anything in return. I can't give you, we don't have a budget, I can't give you accommodation. And she was like, no, South Africa is one of the countries we can visit now, because obviously we were still under some restrictions. It was 2021, and some countries were under restrictions. And she's based in Switzerland, and she said, we can travel to South Africa and we want to go somewhere, and it'd be great to do some judging while we're there. So it was our first year that we had an international judge. And again, it was touch and go about whether the competition would go ahead, but we were like, we will find a way to make it work this year. And we were very lucky. So the judging was all fine, but when the awards night came around, I think it was 1 week later, the restrictions were back. So we wouldn't have, of course we had it was quite a small event. As you can see from the photo, we put on our masks for the photos, really, so that I can show you how very responsible. Of course, the other photo, we'd given up at that point. It was just like... the year 2 takeaways, shipping beers from Cape Town to Joburg's a nightmare. We're not doing that anymore. We need more international judges. We need to run this the way the international competitions are run. But we can't do that without money. Now, at this stage in the second year, we had... a small amount of sponsorship. We had sponsorship from the Beer Association and 1 or 2, but very small amount of sponsorship. We could not afford to pay for any judges to do anything, really. You got lunch. That's about it, really, wasn't it? Yeah, I think that was it. So then the battle for sponsorship started. It's something that I don't love doing. It's hard work asking people for money. It's not something I'm great at either. I'm good at spending it, not so good at raising it. My other takeaway from this year was to keep an eye on what this photo on the right is backstage when we're sort of tidying up, and the photographer caught me taking a swig out of one of the bottles at the end of the day. So my other takeaway was, careful where the photographer is and what you're doing. So year 3 was when it really started to take off. This was 2022. Entries continued to rise. We had 251, 14 different countries. And now we have 54 judges from 18 countries, all in Cape Town. So now we brought judges, and it was people that I'd met when I was traveling, or word spread very quickly amongst the international judging community. There's a Facebook page, and once one person, actually somebody that I'd invited, posted a screenshot of the email, which had my email signature, which had my phone number and my email address on this group, which has got a couple of hundred people on there. And they're all like, we've judged on every other continent, but we've never judged in Africa. So we were inundated with people who wanted to judge, which is great. But we take about 18 to 20 international judges. We don't want it to be majority international. We want it to be majority judges from Africa. The international judges, it's really great in many ways. It brought up the standard. So in 2021, we had more gold medals than in 2022. And that's because the South African judges tend to score very highly. And now the international judges come in who've got much wider experience of tasting. And what to this South African judge was a 43, to this German judge is actually only a 37. And so the number of gold medals went down, which at first I was like, oh God, this isn't good. But actually it's not a bad thing. It's gone up again since. So, you can see the quality of beer improving. A lot of South African judges don't get the opportunity to judge overseas, but I think bringing the international judges here has also been great because there's this, you're sitting with someone who's been judging at the World Beer Cup or something for 20 years. So that you might not get that experience, but you get the, a sort of on-the-job training. Someone picks something up or explains something to you that you're like, oh shit, I had no idea. I mean, I've learned a lot from judging with international judges. And also we try and, so it is work, and by the end of the day you're kind of tired of drinking beer, but we do try and make it as much fun as possible. So with our budget, so we do provide accommodation for the international judges and also from the South African judges who travel from Joburg or wherever. And then put on evening events so that you can go out and enjoy yourselves in the evening. It is beer after all. It's supposed to be fun, right? It's not all work, work, work. So at the end of the day, we try and put on events that that people will enjoy. The photo here is from the awards evening from 2022. The year 3 takeaways. The first thing, we're going to need a bigger room. Oh, do you remember that, Troy? It was very tight. The tables are very close together. The stewards couldn't really get in between the tables. People were waiting. It was actually a really stupid thing. So we used the same room. So in 2021, we had just, what was it? I don't know, 20, 30 fewer beers. So a similar number of beers. But we did it in Cape Town and Joburg, right? So let's say we had 200 and whatever it was, 10. So that's like 420 because everything gets judged twice. But we did it 3 days in Cape Town, 3 days in Joburg. A year later, we had slightly more beers. And for some reason, it never occurred to me. Now we're doing all of these beers in 3 days in one place. And it didn't occur to me that a bigger space might be required. We have 3 times the number of beers. So it was a bit of a, and we had myself pouring all of the beers and 2 stewards, and that was it. So there were long waits in which people got to know each other very well, but we had some complaints about the waiting. So we need more space, we need more staff, and of course, to do this, we need more money. So then the thing started again, and we're constantly trying to upgrade the competition. So we changed the score sheet a little bit to make it more user-friendly for the brewers, for the judges. We got some fancy new glasses for the following year. And one of the things we started doing, that there was the takeaway from 2022, was again, we're getting the same people judging. We need to bring in new people. So we started with the apprentice judging. Ooh, something just happened. There we go. As you can see, we got a photographer and she's amazing. You'll see a couple of familiar faces up on there. So this year we had, so entries were down a little bit, but country numbers were up. Oh, that's wrong. That should say 18 countries. Country numbers were up, still growth. We still call it growth. 52 countries, judges from 20 countries, and a fantastic photographer who takes amazing judge photographs. And we for the first time, we had apprentice judges. So if people are interested in getting into judging, they would sit with a table of judges and judge. They're not just sitting watching, they're judging and they're discussing. We have a couple of our apprentice judges from this year in the room, give a little wave. Yeah, and people who, if there's the stewards also give us a wave. We're interested in apprentice judging. They took one shift or whatever to go in, one session to go and judge. And then other people who are starting to do the BJCP prep. Planning, we're already planning for 2024. Really want to get the numbers up again. So my goal was 280. We're changing, so one of the categories in the BJCP is alternative grains. Those grains are not alternative on this continent. Those are traditional brewing grains. So it's just little things. We're changing the name of the category and giving more information on what you can expect. If you're tasting a beer with millet or sorghum, what is that going to bring to the beer? To make it more relevant, because we're using an American framework and bringing it in to Africa, but we're trying to change it to make it more of an African competition. Really want to get more judges from around the continent. And to do that, we're going to do some training sessions, like Zoom training sessions on judging in this competition at BJCP judging. So these are our plans for 2024. Pulang, I don't know if you noticed, but these are your hands in this photo. Did you spot that? Looking to the future. We're talking about adding traditional sorghum beer. It is complicated because transporting it is very difficult because of the, actively still fermenting when it's packaged. And so it's got to arrive the day before judging. We're talking about it. It probably won't be for next year, but we are making steps towards it. We're never going to be the size of a big American competition, but it would be great to get to 350. Ultimate goal would be 500 entries. Going to need more sponsorship. If anyone's got any money they want to throw away, please come chat to me later. And most importantly, looking into the future, I would love to see some of your faces here on Pete Slowsberg's body. If you are interested in stewarding or in judging, like apprentice judging next year, stay in touch. There's my email address and the website. You can go and have a look more about the competition. If you just want to ask about the competition, or maybe you want to run competitions, you want to know something, about how we operate the competition. Yeah, get in touch, chat with me. I'd love to have some of you guys come and join us as apprentice judges. We are going to be running a BJCP exam, and it will happen this year as part of BRX. So BRX is the conference that's attached to the competition. The competition's taking place in May next year. It's May 18th to the 21st. And so that's Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday. Monday's a day off where you just go out drinking, basically. And then the following weekend is BRX. There will be a BJCP exam at some point in that week. So if you're not from the Cape and you wanted to come down, you come and judge and then take the exam, maybe stick around for the conference. But yeah, it would be great to get some young blood in there. No offense to you guys, but you're not young anymore, right? But thanks for coming to the talk. Cool, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the beer. I haven't had a sip of mine because I'm too busy trying to fit 4 hours of what I wanted to say into 20 minutes. Any questions from anybody? Okay, we have a question. Oh, you've got the mic.
Then quick ones. You spoke about 2 cities, Cape Town and Joburg. Any plans of coming to the East Coast?
In short, unfortunately not. So we now only do the judging in Cape Town. But then if people are coming from other parts of South Africa, we provide accommodation for the duration of the competition if you're judging. It is such a mission to organize an event in a city where you're not based. You know, so.
The ingredients, do you supply those for the participants or should they source from your own?
No, so the competition is only open to commercially operating breweries. So to microbreweries or to larger breweries, you know, SAB Heineken, but we're not open to, I mean, I guess you'd say unlicensed, you know, we don't check people's licenses, but it's only for commercially operating businesses. Yeah, and then usually people are just entering the beers that some people brew specifically for the competition, but a lot of people, they're entering their usual, you know, their core range of beers. So yeah, unfortunately, no ingredients. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you guys for being so very quiet on the last session before lunch. Cheers.